All right, good morning, everybody, and good morning to those in the Pacific time zone and Mountain time zones, and good afternoon to you all everywhere else. I'm Doug Drabick, the Associate Commissioner for Communications and Broadcast here at the West Coast Conference. Moments ago, the West Coast Conference and the University of Denver jointly announced that Denver has accepted an invitation to join the West Coast Conference. DU will be a competing member in the West Coast Conference beginning with the 2026-27 academic year. Denver will be the West Coast Conference's 10th competing league member beginning July 1st, 2026. And the West Coast Conference will have 11 members beginning with the 27-28 academic year, with last month's announced addition of UC San Diego. Joining us today is West Coast Conference Commissioner Stu Jackson, University of Denver Chancellor Jeremy Haefner, and University of Denver Vice Chancellor for Athletics and Ritchie Center Operations, Josh Berlow. Thank you all for joining us. We'll begin with an opening statement from each of you, and following those opening statements, we'll open it up for questions for members of the media. For members of the media, we do ask that you use the raise hand function on your Zoom screen, and we will call on you. And when asking a question, please make sure to state your name and affiliation and who you are directing that question to. Today's news conference is also being streamed live on the West Coast Conference's YouTube channel at WCC Sports. All right, with all of that, we'll begin with opening statements. I will turn it over to Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Doug. Good afternoon to all of you. I am thrilled that the University of Denver has accepted an invitation to join the West Coast Conference. This is a special day for all of us. Denver's history of athletic performance is undeniable, having finished as the top non-football athletics program in the Directors' Cup standings each of the last 12 years. Their programs have won 35 national championships overall and advanced to the NCAA Men's Soccer College Cup twice in the last 9 seasons. Among the 9 sports that Denver will compete in the West Coast Conference, the Pioneers have earned an NCAA berth 91 times since 1998. Their athletic achievements are matched by the quality of their institution. In my conversations with Chancellor Jeremy Haefner, I have learned that Denver University offers a dynamic and immersive academic experience keenly focused on both personal and professional growth. The University of Denver's qualities of academic and athletic achievement mirror the standard of excellence of the West Coast Conference. I applaud the leadership of Chancellor Haefner and Vice Chancellor Josh Berlow for their extraordinary leadership, and I want to welcome them and the Pioneers to the West Coast Conference. One word of note, with Denver's addition, the West Coast Conference is the only NCAA Division I conference with representation in 8 of the 9 largest metropolitan cities in the West that stretches across 1,200 miles across the region. Conference membership is now represented in 7 of the top 30 media markets in the United States, in Los Angeles, San Francisco in the Bay Area, Seattle, now Denver, Sacramento, Portland, and San Diego. On that note, again, I want to welcome the University of Denver, and Doug, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson, and I will now turn it over to Chancellor Haefner.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Commissioner Jackson, for those wonderful words. They're deeply appreciated. On behalf of the University of Denver, we are delighted to be joining the West Coast Conference in 26-27. This represents a significant step in the journey to elevate the University of Denver's athletics, institutional reputation, national visibility, and excellence. And this alignment positions DU among the many most nationally respected universities in the West Coast Conference and abroad. It's in critical cities in the West that our students and alumni call home, and in media platforms that will have a massive reach to viewers across the country. But I'm particularly excited that Denver and the West Coast Conference share deep alignment in vision and values. These are mission-driven, academically distinguished institutions, and this fit between institutions is something that DU deeply, deeply values. The West Coast shares DU values of rigorous academics, community engagement, student success, and especially student athlete well-being and development. I'm also really pleased that 9 institutions in the West Coast Conference are ranked in the top 151 in the U.S. News and World Report National Best Colleges, where Denver is ranked 117th. This alignment deepens opportunities for collaboration across academics, research, and innovation, while strengthening our reach in a key area of the country for us when it comes to student recruitment, philanthropy, and engagement. Joining the West Coast Conference is a statement about who we are and where we are headed, a university defined by excellence, purpose, and the pursuit of greatness inside and outside the classroom. There's so many people. I want to thank our Board of Trustees, of course, Vice Chancellor of Athletics, Josh Berlow, my good new friend, Commissioner Stu Jackson, and especially my fellow presidents of the West Coast Conference, whom I very much look forward to working with as we rise in the West. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Chancellor. And we will now turn it over to Vice Chancellor for Athletics and Richie Operations, Josh Berlow.
Thank you, Doug, and Commissioner Jackson. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you, Chancellor Hafner, for your support of this endeavor and that of the board. Put simply, the West Coast Conference and the University of Denver are a natural fit. It's an institutional fit, it's a geographic fit, and it's a fit for the pursuit of excellence. And that's really where our student athletes. I had the opportunity to inform our coaches this morning, and the energy was palpable as far as they're just can't wait to jump in with 2 feet and compete against the tradition-laden programs in the West Coast Conference in so many spaces. This is something that the athletic department of the university have aspired to for a long time, and credit goes to all of those here at the University of Denver that have built this tradition of excellence, broad-based, academic, competitive pursuits that have put us in a position for this partnership. And we couldn't be more appreciative to the membership of the West Coast Conference for seeing the value that the University of Denver brings. This market, this community, this campus, the faculty, and the facilities will very much be complementary to the totality, the success that we have in the West Coast Conference. And we really view this as an honor, a privilege, and a duty to play a key role in the West Coast Conference's future. So thank you so much for all of that. And we can't wait to get started. We've got a few things we want to accomplish yet this competitive year, but we look forward to this summer and the transition ahead and getting on those campuses. And actually, we've got a game against Seattle in men's basketball on Monday evening. So we'll have a little non-conference competition before it begins in earnest in July.
And you can find that game on ESPN Plus. Had to share the promotion. All right. Thank you, Josh. We'll now open it up for questions. Again, members of the media, we ask that you use the raise hand function on Zoom, and we will call on you and unmute you. A reminder that you please state your name and affiliation before asking that question. And we also ask that you direct your question to a specific individual or individuals, and they will respond. All right. Our first question will be from Kyle Newman with the Denver Post.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the time. Josh, this question's for you. Obviously, this jump, is a big step for men's and women's basketball. And I know in the past, you've talked about wanting to take that next step as a program. Facility-wise, is there also kind of a corresponding plan there to potentially build an arena or anything like that as you move to this, West Coast Conference?
Yeah, certainly if you look across our portfolio of sports, the opportunity that hasn't been capitalized upon yet is in the basketball space. We feel like we've got some momentum in those programs, and the timing of transition could be very strong. You're going to read in the official announcement, if you haven't already, that there's a full seating replacement happening in Hamilton Gymnasium. We are in the process of retrofitting Magnus Arena to again be basketball ready. And we're really going to let the demand dictate where we play. But there's been an intense focus on taking the Ritchie Center into the next 25 to 50 years. It's an incredible facility. It was well ahead of its time when it's constructed. It has stood the test of time thus far, but it is also appropriate at this juncture to continue to invest in that space. And it's something that we've looked at and the institution is committed to as we walk together with this journey of the West Coast Conference. So I think you're going to see some things happening pretty quickly here, and we'll continue to work to elevate that facility amongst other support for the basketballs as they elevate their level of competition.
All right, our next question will come from KIRO Radio.
Hi, this is Frank Lindsay, Cairo Radio in Seattle. Josh, this is a question for you. You mentioned the non-conference game coming up with Seattle U on Monday. So I guess a two-part question. One, what is the feeling there knowing it's non-conference now, but it's coming on the heels of this announcement? And also, what plans, if any, does University of Denver have to kind of reach out to the alumni base here in Seattle?
Yeah, so we've gone to that market in several sports periodically. Excited to have our first measuring stick under the new leadership of Coach Bergstrasser. He's pumped. He is fired up. He was excited about the announcement. He embraces the challenge, and we're going to get to learn more pretty quickly how we start to match up with some West Coast Conference foes. The University of Denver is really good at alumni engagement, and getting to these markets is exciting. Using the opportunity of our sports teams being in these markets to host alumni gatherings, and we want to have more fans and Denver fans in the arenas of our competitors than they want to be there. So we're excited for that. It's something that we've done as a tradition of who we are and have capitalized well. So we look forward to continuing to engage in that space and leveraging our consistent presence. We've done it, quite frankly, in the Pacific Northwest a lot with soccer, getting up to Stanford and Portland and Seattle recently, Washington as well. And we'll just take that roadmap, that playbook that we have, and amplify it. And I think you're going to see a strong presence from our alums at all of the West Coast Conference campuses.
All right, our next question comes from Jeff Ferrato with Bay Area News Group.
My question is for Commissioner Jackson. Stu, can you just talk about the process of expanding the conference footprint by going a little farther east to Denver and what that means to the West Coast Conference? And also, as you and the presidents look at a 12th member in the future, tell us what the footprint is for that, what you'd like to see from that school and how they can add to the conference.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you for the question. And, as we look at, our conference, and it's no secret that we've leaned into the regionality of our conference in tackling the major markets here in the West. I would say with respect to Denver, they certainly are in our region, in the western part of the country, 2.5 hours, flight from, say, the Bay Area or LA, which is not that much greater than most of our schools experience at this time. So they completely identify and fit with our footprint. We're so glad that, we get to extend ourselves just a little bit and perhaps provide a little bit different experience for the student athletes when they visit Denver and vice versa. As we look forward here, Jeff, again, I've said this publicly, our optimal number of schools for the conference is to find a 12th member. We'll continue to explore opportunities to do so, but today this is all about our 11th member, and that's the University of Denver.
All right, our next question comes from Zach Farmer.
Thanks, Zach Farmer, unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. Stu, going into these conversations, how long had the discussions been going on with Denver? How did that get started? And then also kind of following up on the getting to 12 and what that ideally looks like. Does that mean that if and when the 12th member happens, that would be the most that the WCC would go to? And is there a possibility that it would expand further?
Yeah, how you doing, Zach? Good to see you again or hear from you. Um, I would characterize the process of Denver accepting our invitation as one that happened fairly quickly. However, that being said, Chancellor Hafner and Josh Burlow and the three of us have had conversations I would term to be social over, the past 12 months or so, but it really was not until about 10 days ago that things became formal and rose to a level of seriousness that we both thought on both sides, like, hey, we can really make this happen. And, so here we are today. With respect to the 12th member, again, our presidents determined about a year and a half ago that, as I said, their optimum number would be 12 members in the conference, but I don't want that to be a ceiling. We continue to evaluate opportunities for members to join this conference, and as long as those prospective members, fit our criteria of one, being in the region, having, care taken for their student athlete and the wellness, that they perform at an excellent level athletically, and they're willing to stay nimble and adjust in this innovative environment called college athletics of late. We will look at them in earnest. And if that happens to extend beyond 12, so be it. But right now, our focus is, as I said, today, Denver, and that 12th member sometime in the future.
Next, we will go to Keenan Dixon. Keenan, you can go ahead with your question. Keenan, just making sure you're there. Can you hear us?
You hear me now? Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
now we hear you. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this is for Josh. It's Keenan Dixon with KOA Radio in Denver. How much of this decision was based off of location and sort of aligning DU with schools of a similar profile, and then also, maybe getting into a conference with a little more membership security? I understand the Summit League has had some conversations. There's been some discussions with North Dakota State and South Dakota State about potentially leaving. Oral Roberts has also kind of been lumped in some conversations at times. But how important was that to kind of get into a spot where you have some of that security?
Yeah, first I would say the Summit's been a fantastic partner of the University of Denver, and really seen some impressive growth in the last couple of years under Commissioner Fenton's leadership. I'll go back to my initial comment of this is an incredibly natural fit. It's geography. California is a top 3 state for students and alumni. These markets are markets that we're present in. We very much feel as though that we're one of the strongest academic and athletic combinations in the West, and then the fit is very, very natural. We've played hundreds of non-conference games against the membership of the West Coast over the last few decades. So I really would go back to, it's a very natural fit for the University of Denver, academically, competitively, and with the footprint of our alumni and our students and future students. So we're comfortable in the West. It's familiar in many ways, and it's something that has been a goal of the institution, really dating back to our Division I elevation in the late 1990s. So it feels as though it's the culmination of a lot of effort and success, and it really just feels like home. I know it's cliche, but I don't have a better way to put it.
All right, we'll go back to Jeff Ferrato, who has a follow-up.
Yeah, this is again for Josh Burlow. Josh, can you just talk about the challenge ahead in men's and women's basketball in the West Coast Conference? Will it be competing against schools such as St. Mary's, San Francisco, Santa Clara, et cetera? Just how good that gauntlet of schools is, and what you guys can do to reach that level of competitiveness?
No question. We first of all, we recognize the challenge. We embrace the challenge. Our coaches embrace the challenge. But we've also got proof of concept here at the University of Denver and our ability to have national success and leaning into the strengths that we have as an institution, the advantages that we have, the academic opportunities, the community, the campus, and leveraging that in recruiting. And looking to elevate the support that we have for those programs. And we've done some of those things in the last couple of years, and that's infrastructure behind the scenes. It's facilities. It's leaning into the new world of college athletics. So we're very confident that we'll be able to do that. I can't promise you that's going to happen overnight. We understand the magnitude of the challenge, but we also have that challenge in so many other sports that we compete in nationally against some of the biggest and best funded programs across the country in a myriad of sports. I think we have 5 different programs that have been to their respective Final Fours in the last couple of years. And we've had that, you heard the totality of the success that Commissioner Jackson well articulated at the beginning. So we recognize the challenge, we embrace the challenge, and we're working to be successful in this conference, and we'll lean into the ways that we've done that in other programs.
All right, and just a reminder, if you do have a question, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and we will call on you and unmute you. Looks like we have another question from Keenan Dixon. Keenan, can you hear us? Keenan, are you there? All right. Looks like we have another one from Jeff Ferrato.
My question is for Chancellor Hafner. I'm wondering, Chancellor, can you talk about the timetable that Stu Jackson referred to, that fact that you guys had some casual conversations about this for maybe a year, but how did it escalate in the past 10 days or so? And what was the impetus for that happening so efficiently?
Thanks, Jeff, for the question. I will say that it has been an absolute joy to get to know Commissioner Jackson. We share a love of cycling, and so there were a lot of conversations on that shared passion that we have, and I look forward to getting him out here in Denver on his two-wheeler here at some point in the future. I would say that there was just an alignment of interests that started to really surface in the last 10 days. I think both parties were wanting to just have these conversations advance in earnest at that point. And I think we both came to the table with really constructive ideas and thoughts on how we could work together on that regard. And just so pleased that we've gotten so quickly to this point in time, and just am delighted to work with, of course, the commissioner, but also the fellow presidents. I have in the last 10 days been in contact with them, and so grateful for their support. It's been a delightful journey.
All right, again, we asked if you have a question, please use the raise hand function on your Zoom screen and we will call on you. And last call for questions here. All right, it sounds like we are all set here. Commissioner Jackson, Chancellor Hafner, and Vice Chancellor for Athletics, Josh Berlow, thank you for joining our news conference. And thank you all, members of the media, for joining our news conference. For additional media inquiries for Commissioner Jackson, please reach out to myself. My email is ddrabik@westcoast.org. For media inquiries for University of Denver, please reach out to Director of Communications and Digital Media, Nico Blankenship. His email is niko.blankenship.du.edu. Thank you all again for joining.